WSESD will come to order. It's April 22. We're in Cusick. It's a hybrid meeting, which means that some are all of the public bodies meeting remotely and some are meeting physically in a previously noticed location where the public may attend to observe, listen, and participate contemporaneously. Please note that while we will strive to provide means for those attending remotely to participate in the public comment period, there may be technical difficulties or reasons that otherwise prevent or interrupt remote public participation. Therefore, it is important to note that open meeting law only ensures the public's right to participate and comment at a public meeting by attending at the designated physical location as posted in the notice and agenda. If a member of the public or a public body has technical difficulties accessing this meeting remotely, please alert us by email, by text message. We will do our best to reconnect you, but please know this meeting will continue. If any board member feels that an item on the consent agenda warrants discussion, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be set aside for discussion. In that way, the consent agenda will be approved in one motion. That request should be made now or before the vote on the consent agenda. I would like to remove the minutes of April 10 from consideration. The last I looked on the website, they are not linked. So is that true? Yeah, I think so.
I think so.
Okay, good. So I'm just removing April 10 and we'll deal with that at the next meeting in terms of minutes. Okay. Anything else regarding minutes?
Yeah, I have a motion to.
Tim Maceo. Yes. A motion.
Well, I have something to add in minutes.
Okay. A motion.
Yeah. Should I do it now?
Absolutely. It's a consent agenda time.
Okay, I move to make an adjustment to the April 8th board meeting minutes to include the comments I made on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and to provide a link to that statement.
Okay, it is a motion by Tim Maceo. We've got a second. All right, and these are the comments that occurred on April 8th when we were at the Guilford Central School. All right, any discussion? All right, yes.
We went at Tracy and I have made those amendments to those minutes. So we added them per Tim's request.
Oh, already?
Yeah. Those are edited in. Should that be the will of the board?
I can't keep up with the fast pace of this board.
I'm just in awe of this. Wow, the words aren't even out of our mouths. We haven't even voted. And at least he politely said, if this is the will of the board. Yes, should it be the will of the board? All right. Well, any further discussion? All right. If this be the will of the board, all those in favor of this motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, it passes. Thank you very much. All right, moving on. Are there any amendments to the agenda as it exists? Any changes to the agenda? All right, hearing none. Giving people a chance to look at the agenda. Let's move on to student matters. I don't know if there are any students online who would like to comment. And I don't see any students online. All right, we'll give it a few more seconds. All right, not seeing any students at this time. I'm going to move on to public comment on non-agenda items. This is a time for the board to listen and to take notes. It is not a time for the board to respond to comments or to engage in dialogue with the public. If appropriate, the board and administration will work on next steps. All right, I saw hands go up pretty quickly. Jody Normando, would you identify yourself and your town, please?
Jody Normando, Dummerston. Just a couple of quick things. I've been watching all the hearings, not all of them, but up in Montpelier with the Vermont House and the Vermont Senate. And I'm finding the Vermont Senate ones very interesting. And so I hope you all have been watching too. One of the things that concerns me, and I would just pass that off to the board, is that I think the board should take into consideration getting out of the Vermont State Board, the VSBA. It costs a lot of money, and I don't really see what they're doing, but I'm not a board member, so I'm just passing that on. Also, I understood from today's Senate hearing that Friday the students are going to be speaking, which I don't know what students, but I think it's a marvelous idea. They finally bid onto the fact that the students are the ones that really are going to live with this. And so I didn't know whether any were coming from our district. Probably not. They're probably coming from up north where everybody else is. But I ask a question. Did the board send the students a letter to the Vermont House and the Vermont Senate? And that's my question. And that's all I have to say tonight. But hi.
Hi, Jody.
Hi, Karen.
Jody, you're asking a very direct question. We will respond. Tim?
Yeah, I've sent 3 times a notice to the board, to students, to even principals, Mark, passing on Senator Hashim's request for as many students as want to speak. They're limited to 2 minutes from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock on Friday. And he poses 2 questions. I don't recall exactly, but pretty much, how are things in your school? Or how do you feel about your school? This is an opportunity for civic engagement. And we have one person from the Student Advisory Committee who is considering it, but he's not committed to it.
Okay.
But I really hope that Southern Vermont is represented by students.
Okay, so notice, Jody, in reference to your question, notice has gone out. But Jody had another question, and that is the letter that the student group wrote did go to as many legislators as possible. It went to the governor's office. Tim?
Yeah, the letter went to all the members of the Senate House Committee on Education, to all members of the Senate Committee on Education, to our own legislators, and to the board, and to Student Advisory Committee. It's gone out to as many places as possible.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Tim. I just wanted to make sure that the Senate Education had it.
And Senator Hashim responded with a big thank you.
Well, good. And it went very well today with Cheryl, so that was great. Thank you.
Okay, and that's a reference to Cheryl Charles from the Rural School Community Alliance, the RSCA. Next hand I see is Curtis. Could you identify yourself by name and your town, please?
My name is Curtis Clough. I'm the president of Teamsters Local 597 from Barrie. I am here at the meeting tonight so that because I know that the district is going through the process of choosing a vendor for the school busing that is going to be going on in the future. And I feel like it's important for the public to understand some of the concerns and issues that are bubbling up to the surface with the current vendor, FM Kosmeskis, also known as Beacon Mobility.
I'm going to interrupt you for clarification, Curtis, and that is the board that handles transportation for the district is the supervisory union. You are free to speak by all means, and we should be aware of what's going on, but it is the WSESU that handles contracts of that nature.
Thank you for clarifying that. I think I'd like to say this anyway.
You may, yes.
So we also have a contract that is up with Beacon this year, and we anticipate based on their behavior, and Beacon is FM Cosmescus, we anticipate that is probably going to lead to some uncertainty based on their behavior. Beacon Mobility fails to pay their workers in a timely manner, including this last week where everyone was left without a paycheck the Friday before Easter. At a bare minimum, everyone who receives paper checks. Employers are frequently not given their contractual raises. We had one woman who was not paid for work that she did for 7 months while we went through the grievance and arbitration process. In the meantime, she lost her housing because she was short of the money, and that was enough money that would have been able to make it so that she could pay her rent. Beacon has routinely shorted employees on their 401k contributions. They have failed to pay their insurance premiums in a timely manner. That failure was linked to the same time in which they bought another bus company. I don't know why it was short, but I have some suspicion. Additionally, I have a kind of a concern because, and I don't know if this is because Beacon has never brought it to the school board or if it's some other reason, but the parents that I've spoken to in Brattleboro are not aware that their children are being uploaded to a third-party server via the LITEC cameras that are on the bus. Beacon Mobility installed those cameras. The state of Illinois just settled a lawsuit with Beacon Mobility because they had sued them over the use of the artificial intelligence, which takes the biometric data of the people that pass by and are near the camera. And it's all uploaded to a third-party server. And I've never seen any information where parents in the district were told that this was going on. And I feel like that's very concerning, and it's quite honestly indicative of the way Beacon Mobility does things. And that's all I had to say. Thank you for the time, and you have a good night.
Thank you, Curtis. Please stay on for a moment. As I said, it is the supervisory union that handles this issue, and the chair of the supervisory union is Ann Beekman. So Beekman. And I suggest that you send her an email to that effect.
abeekman@WSESDVT.org.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comment from the public on non-agenda items? All right, I don't see any hands. So I'm going to move on to the first item under board matters, and that's Leadership Council updates. Matt Shibley.
Madam Chair, I received a message from the Dummerston Leadership Council, a statement that they wanted read into the record today.
Okay, did they specifically say, I just want to be very clear about this. Did they specifically say in the email that they wanted it read into the record for today's meeting or in 2 weeks' time? I'm just trying to clarify this because there was I'm saying all of this because I'm the board representative to the Dummerston Leadership Council, and there were a couple of emails that went back and forth about whether it was today or in 2 weeks.
The email that I received from Jessica Nelson indicated, "Hello, Matt. The Dummerston Leadership Council would like the attached statement read into the record during the April 22nd meeting at possible. Please let me know if you have any questions."
So be it. So be it. And are we reading it out loud?
I'm prepared to do so if that's okay with the board.
All right. I see Dummerston people here. I see nods. Okay. Matt Shibley, thank you.
Yeah, so statement on diversity, inclusion, and equity at Dummerston School. We, as a leadership council and diversity and equity team, are committed to fostering a safe and welcoming environment where every student feels valued, respected, and supported. We strive to support and celebrate every student, recognizing that the diversity of human variation across culture, race, ethnicity, gender, and ability enriches our educational environment and strengthens our community as a whole. With this in mind, as a leadership council and diversity and equity team, bullet points. We will promote open dialogue about diversity, inclusion, and equity, and encourage our community to engage in meaningful conversations about how we can all contribute to a more inclusive school environment. We will advocate for policies and practices at the local and state level that ensure equitable opportunities for all students, particularly those from historically marginalized communities. We are dedicated to ensuring that every student at our school has the resources they need to thrive in a safe and supportive environment. We will advocate for the resources and funding our school needs to support all students and work to prevent any efforts that seek to pit important priorities against one another. We will continue to respect your child's gender, pronouns, and chosen name, and we support every child in accessing the sports team and bathroom that best represents their identity. We believe that showing diverse representation in books, in lessons, and in media are crucial to making sure all of our students feel seen and can see the world of possibilities that lay before them. We believe that every student deserves to see themselves reflected in their education, and we will actively work to create that reflection. We pledge to listen to and amplify the voices of students and families who are most impacted by discrimination, ensuring that their needs and concerns are always part of the conversation. We believe in studying our country's full history because the country we believe in is one that consistently seeks to grow and do better. We support ongoing professional development for staff to ensure that they have the tools and understanding to create inclusive, respectful, and equitable learning environments. We believe that a diverse community is not just a value, but a strength, and we will work together to ensure that all students feel empowered to bring their authentic selves to school each day.
Yay.
Okay, here. Yeah, thank you. It's a remarkable statement, and I would suggest the statement from April 8th that was just put into the minutes, and the one that started our public comment, as well as all the statements. Let me be inclusive on that one. And then today's statement from Demerson, well worth seeing it in front of you and reading it, well worth it. Thank you. And it certainly expresses the values of this district. Ruby.
I agree, and I think it would be a good idea to actually send that statement to all the chairs of all of the leadership councils. I think that as I think about the intention for the leadership councils in our district in terms of helping our individual schools to feel their values are reflected and are seen and heard by the district leadership, I think that's a great example of doing that. You know, it's a statement, and it was very clearly asked to be read aloud. That's great, but I think sharing it with leadership councils would be good. I also.
Can I stop you before you go?
Oh yeah, sure.
Going to another point.
Yeah. Question.
Just hold
Yep.
it. Don't forget it, please.
Please.
I am going to say that in communication, there's every intention from the Dummerston Leadership Council to share it with the other leadership councils. And as you say that, I really don't think that we need, or it's my opinion, that we need to engage in reinventing the wheel from leadership council to leadership council. It might be a statement that every leadership council wants to put their name to, and it can be expanded out. Statement is already written. And once again, if you see it in print, it's quite powerful. So I would suggest that to Dummerston Leadership Council. Yeah.
And then the question I had, it kind of leads into what you're suggesting. I wanted to know from the Policy and Amendment Committee, I know that there has been a draft, I can't remember what it's called, but like a gender freedom policy. And I've been watching that, although I'm not on the Policy and Amendment Committee, and I'm just wondering, where that is in the development process, because it feels like what I read in that earlier draft speaks to many of the principles and ideas that were laid out. So is there anything to report or to say about where that is?
It's in discussion.
And
And I'll say more than that. The meetings are public and they are recorded. We sent the proposed policy to the attorney for the district and received feedback. And we heard that feedback. And of course, any policy is dependent upon state statute, dependent upon federal statute. So we're tracking through it at this point. And we need to return to that discussion. It was, the last meeting was sobering. We did not meet 2 weeks ago, I don't think. I don't think we didn't have a quorum. So we're actually going back to discussion a month ago. And you can imagine hearing comment about anything that we do at this point on this level is sobering. So we're in discussion. It's not going anywhere. It's not being, when I say it's not going anywhere, it's not being buried.
yeah,
It's not lost in the process. We need to continue, and it is on the agenda. It's the second item on the agenda. We're doing student medication and hopefully getting through that. Then we're going to gender freedom to continue that discussion.
great, thank you.
It is on the agenda.
And we do currently have a policy that will offer the protections that we could think of at the time. So we're just thinking more bigger.
Thank you very much.
Bigger, better. Yes. Yeah. We are on Leadership Council updates. Any other? Okay. I have one in terms of Leadership Council. Was there a summit this spring yet, or yet to happen, or?
Not yet. We're in the final stretch of the school year, so
Yeah.
likely early May, we'll look to schedule that.
Okay. All right. I'm just thinking about conduits of information for Leadership Councils on this very topic.
Yep.
Okay. Any other Leadership Council updates that are perhaps not Demerston Leadership Council?
I meet with Guilford tomorrow,
Oh, good.
so nothing yet.
Good. Okay, great. Okay, moving on. Board subcommittees and supervisory union updates. Board subcommittees, Ruby.
The finance committee had our first meeting and reorganized, and so the only thing I would have to report here is that we settled on our normal monthly meeting pattern, which will be the Monday before the first board meeting of the month, and that will be on Monday at 5 p.m. Place to be determined. It could be that it's central office, but that will be the time. And so I'd encourage other board members, even if you're not on the committee, to kind of tie into that when you can, especially when we're closer to budget time. But that's I just wanted to let folks know. It was a good meet. I felt like it was a pretty, engaging meeting that we had, I felt like.
I tuned in subsequently this weekend. It was a good meeting.
Yeah, that's good.
Yes,
That's
right. Okay. It's posted online.
Yeah.
So,
recording.
yeah. Okay, any,
Is there an SU update?
There is an issue update, but she was going around the room.
yeah, so let me just do board subcommittees. Any other board subcommittees? I have one having to do with policy, but I think it's tied to the SU update,
Okay.
right? So I'm going to defer to the SU update.
And make sure I get everything. The first thing we did was we created a new position, which was sort of indicated before, which is an assistant director of nutrition. And I understand that the search committee is going on that right now. So awesome. We hired some teachers, crew, some retirements. We had and absolutely terrific presentation by Curriculum and Assessment regarding professional training. I highly recommend catching the meeting just so you can see that presentation, even if you don't watch the rest of it. And see, what else did we do? We moved to send the policy on supervision and contracts with the superintendent to the Policy and Amendment Committee for further revisions before we bring it back to the SU board. And we also voted to sign, just ahead of you guys, us guys, the open letter to the AOE from the Education Justice Coalition. And I don't know if anybody noticed, but it's for a local, like, kind of won now.
And the SD followed the next night on the 10th. So that was the 9th and then the 10th. Yeah. And so my policy update is that we are going to do the supervisory union a favor and and delve into this policy having to do with superintendent the evaluative process and the actual contract. So there is a policy. We looked at it in at the SU meeting, and we're going to take a look at it beginning tomorrow. But there's some hefty things on that agenda for policy tomorrow, and I think it's the third or fourth one down. But it's not at the bottom of the list. There are many other things on that list. Okay. Anything else? Ruby.
I have a question about that particular, just functionally. So the policies on the district site are technically speaking SD policies. Is that correct?
We've been moving through adopting the SU as we go through.
Okay.
This particular one is peculiar to the SU because it's an SU function.
Yeah.
But on the whole.
So is there a place where the SU, where it's indicated what is an SU as you're going through? How would someone say, like, look for SU specific policies?
This is the first time we're doing this.
Okay.
So maybe I should code it on the agenda in some way. It's not coded. It just, right, go ahead.
But if you want to look at all the SU policies, they're on the website, the same as the SD policy.
Okay, like as a drop down.
Oh, yes.
SU policies.
Are many of them duplicative of the
Pretty
SD?
much all of them are, I believe.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, this is the first one that we haven't just gone through with the SD board and then adopted it for the SU with
Okay.
Vernon's approval.
Okay.
This is the first one that's peculiar to
Okay.
the SU.
Okay. Thanks for that info.
Vernon has representation on that board
Yeah.
too, so
Yeah.
it seems like a good idea.
Yeah, this is the first time it's gone from SU to the SD subcommittee policy. Normally it just goes the other way.
Okay.
And we have on occasion had engaging conversations about SD responsibility and SU responsibility. And I don't want to go into that sitting here this evening in terms of that committee. Anything else? All right. So I'm dropping down to letter C, which is update on legislative issues related to education. And Tim and Jocelyn said that they would be willing to take that on.
Jocelyn, do you want to do the legislative update?
I mean, I don't have anything specifically prepared.
Okay, well, most of us know about House Bill 454. That's the governor response to that's the governor's proposed plan to transform education in Vermont. That has gone to the Senate. We had two representatives from the Rural Schools Community Alliance that testified in the Senate to that bill today. So 454 is the big one, but also there's a few others. There's Senate Bill 15, S15, which is a supplemental reading instruction in schools bill, which focuses on mandates. The bill mandates supplemental reading programs across all schools to enhance literacy. And then there's the cell phone free schools. That's Senate Bill S-21. And that introduces policies to create cell phone free environments in school to minimize distractions. And then there's a couple of others. There's House Bill 129, H129, state aid for school construction program. And then there's H130, which I believe the board has discussed in the special meeting, and that's the Advisory Council on Harassment, Hazing, and Bullying Prevention. And the focus is on, it expands the membership and responsibilities of the existing council to better address issues of harassment, hazing, and bullying in schools.
And that's H121?
H130.
130. Mm-hmm.
So these bills are pretty easy to follow if you just go online. And they impact what we do.
I have a question about S21, which is cell phones. Is that looking to prohibit cell phones legislatively in schools?
All I know, the details aims to improve student focus and academic performance by limiting cell phone usage during school hours. And that is in the Senate Committee on Education.
Mm-hmm.
For the Senate Committee on Education, I don't think it's going to get to this for a while.
Okay. So you don't know whether that's across the board a prohibition on cell phones for all schools or not?
No, it just says it introduces policies to create cell phone free environments in schools.
Okay. All right. Any other legislative issues? Yes, Hannah.
I've been on some VPA calls recently, and the understanding is that what they're looking to do is make it so that each district needs to create a process in which cell phones are eliminated, or there's some restriction on cell phone use within the districts. So it wouldn't be like the same mandate across the state. It would be more that just you have to have something in place.
Okay, so that sounds as if there would be a stipulation that there has to be a policy in place having to do with cell phones. Okay, all right, that's coming
Possibly,
that's coming our way. I sort of expected that would come our way. But then, of course, it all depends on how many districts exist statewide. Okay.
119.
119?
Yes.
Okay, all right, versus 5. Okay. Any other issues legislatively?
Regarding the bill about school construction, please note, everybody, that the motivation for that bill is to consolidate schools through the temptation of closing 2 and building 1. Just want to make sure everybody understood that, because it sounds like great news, but people who are merging schools and building new ones are going to get priority with that.
Okay, all right. Okay, I'm going to move on. We had a discussion about, on the 8th, about the $100 that exists right now per board member annually for texts and publications. And I sort of curtailed that conversation. I thought we were coming to the end, and then there was another iteration to it and another iteration. So it had opened up that that it isn't just educational publications, but rather, I remember a board member saying, any book, in effect, any text. And then there was discussion about whether board members would be asked to provide a synopsis of the experience, some aspect of the experience of going through that text. So that's where the discussion rested, I recall. In the interim, there was an SU presentation, and I think it's the same one that Anne referred to, where coaches were, and the Office of Curriculum and Assessment, where coaches and staff were encouraged to reach out, reading publications, reading books that were specifically tied to the work they're doing. And I think maybe I'm thinking also about the 1% grants. 2%.
No, it is 1%.
It's 1%.
Sorry, my brain is in a different
Okay.
place with that number.
The 1% grants as well, that there had to be some tie in to the work that is going on for that staff member. Am I correct in that? In remembering that? Okay. So I sort of throw that out to us as well. Is it any book, or is it something that we can say, hey, it relates to what I'm doing in this moment? Or, I mean, I don't see it having to be specific to a board, but to education in some way. Okay. So I'm opening it up it's open for discussion. Matt?
I love the idea of flexibility, and I think there should be a level of accountability. I'm not clear on what the mechanism should be for that. Whether it's, simply consulting with the board chair or making it a motion for the whole board to approve, although that might be cumbersome, and there could be time constraints with that. Or if there was some sort of obligation of the board member, should they choose that, get reimbursed, that they bring it forward to the board with some sort of announcement, presentation, or just notification. I don't think it should be something that board members be able to do in secrecy.
Jim?
I thought this would be like a 2-minute discussion. I hope it doesn't go on and on. The idea is, if a board member deems something pertinent to his or her professional development to do the work of the board, it would show up in the warrants that so-and-so purchased this book. So without any further discussion of it, I'd like to make a motion. I move that the board approve $100 per board member to purchase any materials that he or she deems pertinent to his or her job on the school board.
Is there a second?
Second it.
Open for discussion. I have my hand up too. Yeah, in my head. I feel as if that motion is really broad, and I spend a lot of money on copier ink and reams of paper because I print out everything. That's pertinent to my work on the board. And that's far more than $100 in a given year. So I would love to see the motion narrowed down to print material. Anyway, that's my suggestion, that it be print, that be something that you have to read. And so Ruby, you had your hand up.
I think that the thing that I'm hitting up against with the motion is I just feel like I continue to feel that I think that our board should live within whatever the confines are that staff in the district live within when they are ask for a reimbursement for something, some book. But at the same time, we are different than the educators in the district. And I don't, as Matt said, I don't know what the function or what the mechanisms would be, but I like the idea of those mechanisms. And so I'm not opposed to this change to the existing policy. It's not like the amount isn't changing. It's really just the scope of what you could ask for reimbursements for. I like the idea of whether it's in the motion or not. I like the idea of asking board members to assert when they utilize, when they request something for purchase, and do it in public meeting. And one of the reasons I like that is, yes, there's no secrecy, but also honest to God, I just forget about this thing. Like I might purchase things that are relevant and I could get reimbursed for. I just don't think about it. And at the same time, every now and again, Tim thankfully like forwards things from Ed Week, and that's like, I'm like, oh, all right, there's that thing. So we might all be reminded of ways that we could find things that would enrich and enhance our board experience. So I think there's that benefit also. So I'm not opposed to this motion, but I would like to see some structure put into place. And I do actually like the proposal of formally, like having the board formally present, not formally, but like actually present in the meeting. This is what I've put in for a request for. So,
Other discussion? Yes,
I just want to say that I agree with the transparency aspect of it, that I think it needs to be clearly explained what and how much and everything, full transparency.
So I'm comfortable with transparency as well, and that it would be something that would be, I would announce that I'm going to be reading X, Y, and Z. I'm not really comfortable with having to do a song and a dance to that effect in front of the board. I don't think that is necessarily useful, unless, of course, there is something that, a particular chapter that I come across that, and that's true for any of us in terms of our reading. So, but I do think it should be something that we say more than just in the warrants, but that we just announce that this is what we're doing. We do have to be very careful about how we make a purchase. And this has come up. Mo sent me an email. We do need to get, well, she said it was a green piece of paper. Not from her, but I think her process is green before it goes to white, before it goes to point of purchase kind of deal. But it would be just something in terms of, let's say, I think a lot of purchases are made with everyone's books. We would go in there and get something from them that we would give to the central office, and that would be part of the purchase process. I'm not saying it very well. I didn't think I would be talking about this tonight, rather than just going in and making a purchase. Okay, so we do need to follow protocol. Brian, you had your hand up.
And for the sake of simplicity, would it make sense to simply say, okay, if somebody wants to purchase a book, send the title to the chair and the vice chair and basically get them to sign off on it. And then you could accumulate a list of those and periodically, monthly or quarterly, just share with the board and the public what has been purchased. So we have more than one person deciding or approving.
I hate to be in that position of approval for my peers on this board.
Well, I simply mean, yes, someone else has looked at this, and it's not just me going out and spending $100 on books. Yeah, it sounds like we're looking for a process. We want it simple. We want some accountability. If you can say something that's simpler and accountable, please, someone speak up and say it, and let's finish this conversation. I mean, it's a great conversation, but as Tim said, we don't need to belabor this as much as we have. If we feel that books are important to be read, then let's figure out a way to do that and not make it so difficult for ourselves and everybody else.
Well, someone needs to take charge of this. So I appreciate the lack of patience with this conversation. But someone needs to do the bookkeeping, and that's basically what you're saying. It's $100 per person. Are we putting this on the shoulders of the chair? Are we putting this on the shoulders of someone in the central office who already has a lot to do, as does the chair and the vice chair? So I'm just throwing this out, but someone needs to keep track if we're worried about transparency. And hey, will of the board, let's move this along. Ruby.
I think that the only thing that Brian said that I think I'm not sure I agree with is the idea of the board or anyone approving it. I think the idea of this motion is to put trust into all of our hands that that we will be able to decide what is appropriate. And I think that's something we have to accept, is that there could be people on this board now or in the future who have political views that I might not agree with. And so if we hear a book that we're like, oh God, not that one, that's a reality. And it's not up for discussion. Like, we're not going, like, if it's read out into meeting, it's not like, whoa, how dare you? That's what we're saying. We're giving authority to each board member to do that type of purchasing. I would suggest that we just do something and then reevaluate it in a few months or like at the beginning of next year and move on.
So I see a board member's hand up, and we have spent 9 minutes on this conversation right now. So, and I see a couple of community members' hands up. I'm going to cut this to the quick, and I'm going to call on the board member. Yes, Matt.
I think as the board clerk that I could assume a note-taking responsibility toward this. If a board member is utilizing $100, they could email the clerk, and the clerk could read that into the minutes.
Okay.
Oh, I am all smiles.
It's not an
No,
approval.
it's just
the record
noting.
keeping. It's a notation.
It's reading it into the minutes. It's the minutes. Thank you very much. Okay. Any other discussion on this? All right. I saw a couple of hands up in the public, and I am not going to shut it down completely. Carrie Amadin, you had your hand up? I know she did. But she's there. Here she is. Carrie?
Can you hear me?
We can.
My thought just is very briefly, use the personnel committee. It gives you a form to have it done, and it gives you openness and transparency. The end.
Okay, short and to the point. Okay. And Michelle Green, your hand is up.
I just have a clarifying question, I guess, that because it wasn't really clear the way the motion was made, that this is specific to professional development and not doesn't cover things that the stipend, because I think it's not really a salary, it's a stipend that board members get, which I would imagine is meant for like ink. But I just wanted to clarify that this is specific to professional development. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, it is what you're hearing. At least that's my view of this. Yes, it's publications and texts, professional development. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So can we hear the motion back at this point?
As I understand it, the motion is that $100 be given to each board member to purchase material that they deem pertinent to their work on the board.
Ruby?
I thank you for reading that back. What that says to me is that we are all being granted a stipend of which we can do what we want. But my understanding of what we had previously done was we could be reimbursed up to X amount. And so that's what I had kind of assumed we were talking about, keep retaining the idea of being reimbursed up to 100, but the scope of what we could it was before only 3 different publications that we could purchase. And this is opening that up broader. So I'm not sure how I feel about us all getting, I mean, if we get $100 stipend, could we use it on purchasing ink for our home? That's, in theory, that's what it is. So that's not my recollection of what we had been discussing before.
So can I come up with a friendly amendment? And that is that print material related to our work on the board.
Any kind of publication, lots of publications are online. Or
Oh, online, but yeah.
So I think the issue that I'm having is not actually with the content, it's with the mechanism
With the mechanism.
of,
Reimbursement.
yeah,
versus-
reimbursement versus a stipend.
Yeah, I think this is, my understanding is this was reimbursement.
Mhm.
It was reimbursement for whether it's an online service or print material.
So if that's your understanding, that's not how I understood your motion or the motion.
Okay, those friendly amendments have been incorporated into a new version. Can you just read the new version, please, Mr. Clerk?
That $100 be reimbursed to each board member to purchase printed material that they deem pertinent to their work on the board.
Printed or online material, I think.
Okay.
There was that, right? Mhm.
Yep.
Right, okay. How does that sound to board members?
Hate to add
Go ahead.
more to this, but I think audiobooks should be included too.
Okay.
Any kind of, I think.
Well, would that be online?
Well, I think the print
Oh, I
is
see what
what
you're saying, right.
threw me off
Mhm.
from an accessibility standpoint.
Okay, to professional development material. How's that?
Publications?
Well, that's professional development.
No, I'm just saying publications should cover all of it.
Publication should cover all of it. Does it? Professional development material publications, okay. Okay, can we hear it one more time?
Of course. That $100 be reimbursed to each board member to purchase professional development publications that they deem pertinent to their work on the board.
So that means up to $100,
I think up to.
not more than $100.
Yes.
Wait a minute.
If that's what you said.
I am listening to these questions, and I appreciate that this is a pesky issue that takes more time than we like. But just
My question is yes or no.
well, I
Up to
don't know.
means
I
up
have
to
to hear it back again.
$100?
I have to hear it back, the wording. I don't know.
$100 be reimbursed to each board member to purchase professional development publications that they deem pertinent to their work on the board.
Okay,
Easy to add up to.
add up to. Let's be done with
No
this.
more than. Up to,
And per annum,
per annum. Per annum,
because otherwise it kind of sounds like you can go out and buy as many
Okay,
$100 things as you
okay.
want.
okay.
Including that.
And can we have another sentence that suggests that such purchase will be announced to the clerk? Or will be,
Clerk will be notified of purchases.
good deal, thank you. Mhm, yes, and said clerk will be notified of all purchases. Sound good? Okay, so we've got a motion. Okay, it's a new motion, right? Is it a new motion? No, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Any further discussion? Beware. Oh, did I see a hand, Brian? Okay, bringing it to a vote. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you very much. Okay, that went very smoothly. It did. All right. So a draft was sent around to everyone, courtesy of Matt Shibley. Thank you very, very much. And it is a draft having to do with hazing, rather harassment, hazing, bullying, advisory council of the AOE. And did everyone take a look at this draft? All right. Is there a motion concerning this draft?
So move that we accept the draft as written.
Second.
Is that okay?
Okay,
Is
let's
that
got a second. And since the draft is addressed to 3 key individuals, I'm assuming that the motion in accepting the draft as written means the board is sending this out to these 3 key individuals, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Zoe Sanders, Tracy Waterson, and Rebecca McBroom. All right. There's a motion. It's been seconded. Discussion.
Well done.
Thank you. Very clear statement in support of expressing a concern about the composition of this committee. Matt Shibley.
Would it be worth, given sort of the nature of the letter and for transparency, for us to read this into the record or share it in the minutes, which would be preferable?
Are you going to respond to that, Ruby?
I'm going to add a suggestion related to that.
Good. Okay.
So I think that this is, the Communications Council, this is a good example of something that once we send this and approve it and send it to those individuals, I think we could put it up on social media. We could send it to the papers, as a letter to the editor, just generally. Because I do think it's important that this messaging be public. But I think it's too meaty and wordy to read out in meeting and even to put into the minutes unless you're like linking it somewhere. But if we created it and put it on the website or put it on social, it's much more easily linked.
Okay,
That's my
well,
suggestion.
I think if we're not reading it out loud, it should certainly be linked. This document should be linked in the minutes. And do we want to release this before receiving a reply from the AOE?
I think so.
Yes, okay, so be it. That was just a question. And I presume it is signed off, respectfully submitted. Deborah Stanford, Chair, or on behalf of the WSE, how do you want to sign off on this?
I think from the board
Yeah.
as a whole.
The WSESD board. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Because that's who it's from at the very top of it.
Right,
So
Board of Directors. Okay, respectfully submitted. All right, thank you. Great.
we need to vote.
Oh, we haven't voted. No, that felt so unified there.
We are.
Okay, so does anyone need to hear back the motion? The motion is clear. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? And again, thank you very much, Matt Shibley, for putting this together in record time. And I also, I don't see him online, but I also want to thank Curtis Reed for bringing this to the board's attention. It is because of his words that we are at this point right now. Okay. So we are up to letter F, consider annual review as per the ongoing social justice and anti-racist commitment statement that is on our website. So I know that Matt Jocelyn and Mikaela Sims were going to take a look at this. I also know that it was vacation time and everybody was away, and this is not the first week back, is it? No, last week was the first week back. Oh, this is
No,
the
that's
first
the
week back.
first week back.
Oh, is it really?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
And I
Oh,
did send an email. She just got back earlier today,
Good,
so
yeah.
we've not yet.
Everybody, so I'm just gonna put this on hold, okay, and put it on the agenda for the next meeting. Is that okay? Or Tim, did you want to make a comment?
Yeah, just that the school year is coming to an end. And this is important, I think, and the timing could not be better with all the discussion about DEI. This is really showing that we walk the talk. So I just think that we need a plan for the rest of the, what do we have, 4 board meetings left? And is one of those going to be taken up by a summit? What do we have left? Do we have?
Don't have a calendar in front of me. I can get it out, but
May and June, yeah, May and June.
we have a presentation at the next meeting. There was a presentation scheduled for this meeting. It's coming back from break, so it was postponed to the next meeting. So we are pretty booked. We are pretty booked, and that is one of the reasons why I thought at the last meeting for Matt, Jocelyn, and Mikaela to form a subset to step us through this statement, because
May I suggested that subset come back to the meeting with action items based on the commitment on the pledge.
however they come back, talking points, in however they feel is appropriate to come back. Yes, after looking over the statement and conferring together.
Because my concern is that we're going to be in the June retreat discussing district-wide goals without this having been incorporated into those. I would just say that.
Yeah,
No
okay.
things needed.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right. And this goes, because I think what else is on the agenda having to do with board matters is closely connected to this conversation. It's going to be all the building blocks to this, because the next item is the potential of a statement to affirm the district's commitment to social justice and DEI. And I put that on the agenda because it came up almost as a mantra at the last couple of meetings that we've had, the 8th and the 10th. So I'm putting this out there for discussion at board level. Matt.
I think our stance is pretty clear, and I feel fairly confident that we are aligned as a board. We're in support of the work that administration and Mark Spino are doing. I think it would be unnecessary for us to craft an additional statement toward this end when there are other statements that align very, very clearly with us, what we're all doing together. I'll reference the Dummerson Leadership Council letter. That feels to me very aligned to the spirit of what we're all trying to do here. So perhaps the leadership councils sign on that letter, co-sign it as well. Feel like the board could co-sign this, and I feel like that aligns.
I think Mark has already sent out a very succinct letter to the public and to our community discussing how we all feel and reaffirming our stance.
I see F and G as the same item. And I think it's the goal is to look at the commitment that was created in 2020 and to make any edits that we feel necessary that apply to 2025. So I see this as probably very slight changes to the wording, that would be shared at the next board meeting and then voted on to approve. And just as a related note, our current commitment to DEI and our work around it, Mikaela and I are continuing to visit all of the schools in our school district, sharing the current commitment and just having a conversation with each staff that we are committed to this. We're continuing the work. We're proud of the work that we've done, but we know we're nowhere near complete with the work, and we're going to move forward. And that message has been super well received. We were at Dummerston today, and then at Putney later this afternoon. We'll be at BUHS next week.
Okay.
So it's who we are. It's what we do.
All right. And it's a review of this statement is about the ongoing work that we are doing. The next board meeting is the 8th. Is that correct? It's the 8th. Okay. All right.
Sorry, 6.
It's the 6th. All right, Ruby?
No, that it would be the 13th.
Oh,
Because because the 6th is the first Tuesday.
Here we go.
Sorry.
Is it the 13th?
It is the 13th. That is the 13th is the second Tuesday of the month.
All right. Okay, how many board members does it take to? All right.
I use my search function.
There we go. There we go. Ruby?
I think that, my recollection of why this comes up periodically is that when you read through the commitment, the last bullet point is to hold ourselves accountable to at least annually take in our organizational inventory of how well we're doing in terms of meeting the above commitments and taking corrective action. And I feel like our district is doing a better job. Our administration's doing a better job at communicating and being really sharing what's going on. But that's different than what I see in that bullet point, inventorying and evaluating in a very focused way. And that's the piece that I thought I assume the subset is the Social Justice Committee. Is that correct? I assume the Social Justice Committee is activated. This seems like, topic number one to move through. Right. And so I would be okay with kicking this to the Social Justice Committee and waiting for them to get it together, what you're doing, and come back with a, commentary on it. And that, because I think that it's actually a big issue and it's very important, and talking about it doesn't negate that we're actually doing really well. But we have to do a better job at that last point of the inventorying and speaking to it publicly.
Okay, so it was tossed to social justice. Yes, that is the component. I sort of Jocelyn and Matt and Mikaela Sims. Okay, all right. So let's read. Tim, did you want? No, I didn't know whether there was, no, I'm not, I just didn't want to overlook if there was a comment. So we're going to put this on pause until the 13th and then address it. And if there is anything that, as you start taking a look at this document, you want the board to specifically consider, send that along to me. I'll send it out to everybody. Okay. All right. So I would like to take a break. I would like to take a stretch break. It is 7:10. Let's say we come back at 7:20. Okay. We've come back together and we're still on board matters, and we are going to open it up to a discussion of EQS, education quality standards, and DQS, district quality standards. These are guidelines that have been updated that are going to be in effect as of July 1, 2025. I would just like to make note, I did reach out to the V.S.A, the Vermont School Board Association, and to Sue Siglowski. I received feedback from Debbie Singheiser in that office, basically saying that the AOE has been slow to respond, both in terms of finalizing district quality standards as well as education quality standards. So supposedly something is coming out the end of April. We haven't seen anything new yet, and yet this deadline still seems to be with us until such time as it's delayed because the AOE is overwhelmed. But EQS, education quality standards, this is the job that we are supposed to be doing right now. So Tim graciously said that he would take a look at this, and considering he did this hard work having to do with one of the policies that's before the committee. So Tim, thank you.
Okay, this is going to be less than 10 minutes. I'm assuming that everybody has at least gone through the one or two of the webinars. We've gone through the PowerPoints. So this is a shortened version of all that material, in particular, the document itself, the 23-page US statement. Next. So what are they? The genesis of it came from at least 2017, if not before, when the state realized that marginalized people were not doing very well in Vermont. And they realized that one of the avenues to rectify this situation was through the schools. So the schools were mandated to introduce DEI. So Vermont has at least a year, if not more, history of doing this. Next. Why EQ matters for us. It's a legal mandate. It's a framework for equity to support diverse student needs, and it just is going to help us do our job better. Next. The first 2 pages, or a couple of pages in the document, really define these terms and many more. I thought these are useful because policy has definitions of terms throughout various documents. And I think it makes sense for us to have to use the same definitions in our policies and in our discussions as are in the EQS. So if you can go back, yeah, they have how would we define racism or neurodiversity or proficiency-based assessment? Well, the definitions are pretty thorough in the document, which is why one reason why it's a useful document. Somebody once said that educators have whole conferences around terms that they can't define. Well, this is helping us define some key terms. Next. This V.S.A.'s recommendation was that school boards take each of these 6 components of EQS and take them chunk by chunk and have discussions first around curriculum, instruction, and assessment, and so on. So here we are, this is just an overview, but their recommendation is that school boards really have separate discussions on each of these. Curriculum, instruction, and assessment, the board provides oversight of that. Personalized learning plans we'll get to a little later. Multi-tiered systems of support. I think we all know that this district is doing great on that. School climate culture, the same thing. Staffing and professional development. And then, of course, overriding everything is equity and inclusion. Next. The work of the school board, according to the document, is to establish vision, engage the community. I wonder personally if we can engage the community more. Establish policy. I think we're doing that pretty well. Develop board and superintendent partnership. We have that. Ensure effective and ethical operations. We should really explore that in the document. It gives detailed information about what that means. And the same thing with monitor progress and performance. How do we know what our high school students are graduating with in terms of understanding of concepts like racial, white superior, white privilege? How do we know? You don't. And then ensure budget and finance oversight. I think the finance committee will benefit from a model that Burlington gives of how they ensure that DEI is incorporated in their budget and finance oversight. No. Just to focus a little on curriculum development, teach causes and effects of bias and discrimination, promote civic understanding and cultural contributions, ensure access for multilingual and neurodiverse students, add ethnic studies as a content area integrated across all content areas. I think we know this district well enough to know that we're doing pretty well in all of these. And the recommendation of WSE, of the SBA, the School Boards Association, is to focus on your strengths and then see how you can do it better. Build on your strengths. Next. Graduation requirements and curriculum, proficiency in academic content, along with local board requirements, is spelled out pretty much in detail in the document. And then the subjects, of course, are ones that we have there. And modified or accommodated paths for special ed and multilingual learners. And we're doing pretty well in that too. But the one that I would like discussion about is how do we measure proficiency in the content in determining when to hand a student a diploma. Next. Flexible pathways. We've had a couple of superb reports on flexible pathways regarding dual enrollment, early college, internship. We just need to tweak a little, get a little detail, I think, on virtual learning opportunities, with particular focus, of course, on disaggregating this by marginalized groups. How many BIPOC students are taking dual enrollment, for example? How many students in poverty are accessing virtual learning? So I think that we might be able to delve a little bit more in flexible pathways, disaggregating it by marginalized students. And then all of these must be communicated clearly to students and families. Next. This is one that I was really wondering about, and I'd love to hear the administration and your thoughts on. The plan, EQS mandates personalized learning plans for every student. Do we do that now? And if not, do we have the manpower, the capacity to develop in collaboration with parents and students and teachers a personalized learning plan for every student every year? That's a big question. Or maybe we already do. I don't know. Next. We've mentioned multi-tiered, one of the strengths of this district, I think. And next. Staffing and professional development. We do that in the presentation for SU that was mentioned. Brent mentioned how DEI is incorporated into everything they do in professional development planning. I would just like a little more detail about, okay, how do all staff in the high school, for example, get training in DEI? Next. Student voice and engagement. Students, according to EQS, students must have a role in shaping their education, develop structured opportunities for student input, and the district should honor lived experiences of all students. I think that's built into our ethos. Can we do better? Next. This is important. These are minimum data reporting requirements. And we have most of these, I think. But some are missing, I think. Let's read them. Discipline, including suspensions and detentions. Do we have that data disaggregated by marginalized students? Same thing for incidents of harassment, hazing, and bullying. This is what they're calling for. These are minimum data reporting requirements. And next steps for us. These are just my thoughts, not from the document. Review of social justice and anti-racism pledge, that's in the works. Board self-evaluation based on BQS, which we will get to. And also it's a policy due to that annually the board, the SU board and SD board does a board evaluation. And collaborate with admin on continuous improvement plan and WSESD board goals. And further review of maybe not each of the 6 EQS components, but ones that we think we should dive further into. Because we just don't have the time to or the need to dive into everyone. Next. Continue to ensure that PD is aligned with EQS equity goals. Continue to monitor equity-informed budgeting. The document, Ruby, that we might look into in finances of Burlington School District Equity Budget Guide, excellent document. And then perhaps somehow strengthen student voice, going beyond the SAC committee and student reps, but maybe add Panorama diversity questions specifically about diversity and school safety. And next. Other notes I just took note of, class sizes is interesting. It says that there should be the minimum, there should be less than 20 students for K through 3 and less than 25 for grades 4 through 12. Something that the Rural School Community Alliance has been addressing is this very thing. Should grades 4 be the same as grades 10 as far as class size goes? We know that those are really different animals. Should a grade 4 have 24 students, just like grade 10? So this is one of the things that is being discussed in the with the Alliance and the Senate Ed Committee. The document also gets into physical education requirements. Do we have 2 30-minute periods in the lower levels for recess? I don't know. Curriculum content areas, graduation requirements. TLDR. I went through the entire 1-hour webinar, and at the very end, they have TLDR, which means what does that mean?
Too long, didn't read.
Too long, didn't read. So if you don't want to go through the whole thing, at least go to minute number 48 in the webinar, and it'll have things that you really need to know about potential action items for school boards. And next. And this is why they're doing it. This is our goal. You can read this on your own. Wouldn't it be nice if we had this in its entirety? And that is all.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Comment, questions? That the questions are for all of us, not for any one person, because we all have a responsibility to take a look at this. There is something that struck me, and that is class size. And I just went to the document. We have to be so careful with the mathematics of this. It's not this document doesn't say fewer than 20 for grades K through 3 or fewer than 25 grades 4 through 12. It says
What page?
I'm going to find it right now. And it is, I just had it. It is an average. It's an average. It's not fewer than. And so it makes a big difference that in terms of the mathematics of this. And I just had it and I just lost the page. Sorry. So it's class size is something that really intrigues me. It makes all the difference. And comments, questions as we went through this?
I have a question for the administration. Do we have personalized learning plans for every student now?
Everything that was just presented, I would say that's the area that we need the most improvement.
I think that's where it is.
Because I would hate to see us take away from IEPs having, IEP plans in order to accommodate everybody. Right. It seems like it would be a zero-sum equation. We only have so many people.
Things look great on paper, which may not be the reality. Page 16, Tim, the very top of the page is class size in this document. Okay. Yeah. Classes in grades K through 3, when taken together, shall average fewer than 20 students per teacher. So that's a big difference. Right. Hannah.
I just want the PLP, we've been talking a lot about that at the high school recently, and we use Naviance for grades they get at their spring semester of their sophomore year. And it's like basically a career planning, college planning resource for all students. And we've recently been talking about like starting them off when they join 9th grade, because it is they have opportunities to like diary and look at goal setting, and like it's all about personalized learning plans, and it would not take away from IEP students at all. It would just be another tool for students to use. So I think, at the high school, we're looking at creating opportunities for all students to have those.
And it gets them comfortable with Naviance at a young age, since they're going to have to use it at some point. Well, a fair number.
And it just allows them to think about their purpose of school right now. Mm-hmm. So like as a 14-year-old coming in, here are my opportunities available ahead of me, and here are the different avenues and roads I can take to get there.
And now it really counts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the headset of kids, right? It counts now, right? Other comments? Brian.
Thanks. I need some clarity about this. These are education quality standards, and you're saying that we're waiting for approval from the Agency of Education? Or, I mean, this is like a draft that they are going to approve?
I don't know. I do know. It was rolled out last year, because I remember sitting through EQS and DQS webinars. It's the same set of webinars, and they're waiting for the AOE to finalize both EQS and DQS. Regarding DQS, they have promised, it's in quotation marks, more information about draft proficiency scales that will be coming out by the end of April. Somehow I'm ready. It's the end of April. And that's going to be DQS, and that's going to be something we're going to look at right now, very briefly. And regarding EQS, the sentence, this is from the V.S.A. We submitted those last summer. These are the drafting proficiency scales, governance standards, and it was all in the packet that I sent you from the VSBA. And are still waiting for the AOE to respond and finalize them despite our regular nudges. So it's DQS and EQS will be as they look right now with maybe some tweaks. Brian.
Yeah. So then what I get from this and what Tim Smith said a couple of times is like, we're already doing a lot of this.
Yes.
It all looks very familiar. It feels like it's some stuff we're already doing. So when we get the final thing from the agency at the end of, or in July or whatever, what will be the difference? I mean, what will we do differently than we're not doing now? I'm a little unclear.
I don't think much. But I'm also unclear because everything that I just got back says we're waiting for finalized copy. But I think given the bureaucracy of the system, it will be as we see it right now for the most part. They can't make a major change at this point. The other statement that I heard, because I was listening to some of this stuff again, there will be no district will be penalized in this first year. So it was a moment to say, don't worry, this is not punitive. We're not judging you, but we're evaluating you. But you'll be okay this first year, right? And I don't know what the second year will look like. And we don't know that either, right? That's the reality. Mark, were you going to add something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, one thing that we could do a little differently next year in relation to the standards are make the connection to the standards in our presentations that we provide to the board and the community. Like we do that to policy right now. An additional step could be, here's the policy it's tied to, here's the standard it's tied to as well.
So just to clarify, what Mark is referring to is the calendar that he gives out that has all the multiple columns, and it sort of announces which policies are being addressed by, let's say, a given presentation. Right. Matt?
In my experience, my former role at HCRS and in collaboration with the Vermont Department of Mental Health, they went through what feels like a relatively similar process in terms of creating standards that they then tied funding to. And I'm curious if we've heard, as the legislators are currently thinking about funding to districts, if AOE is also going to link standards to the funding mechanism, if we've heard anything about that yet.
I don't think we've heard anything about much yet.
In other areas of the state, I think in developmental services, the Department of Mental Health, they're tying standards to funding mechanisms.
Okay, well, it'll be interesting. Right. Ruby?
I guess I just want to, it may be that maybe this is a good segue to the DQS thing, because it might be that that's what I'm confused about. But my understanding of these EQS standards are that they are not draft, they have been approved, and they go into effect in July. And the thing we're waiting on are details and a clearer understanding of what the impact will be. Some of these, like the funding impact, what are our expectations. The thing I'm curious, because I do think I really very much appreciate Mark's suggestion. I think it's a great suggestion. I do think that is something we could do better, because ultimately I actually think we are doing great work in this district. Like, that's true. And we hear it at the board level. We could do a better job telling the world. And that I think we could tie that back to these standards in a better way. The thing I'm not clear on, in addition to that funding thing, but the thing I'm not clear on is how we as a board, what expectations we have as a board. And I've got to say, I've been in the webinars, I've looked at the materials. my eyes go a little bit cross about what are the expectations at the board level. Where do they, is it in the, I think it's in the DQS, not the EQS?
I'm about to go there.
Okay, all right, so I'll
I'm about to go there. So, the distinction that I'm making between EQS and DQS is all of the hard work that goes on in the district, and DQS has several component parts. There's only one part of DQS that involves the board, to my understanding, and that's going to be numbered 113, and that has to do with governance. And governance, having to do with the board, is going to fall into three categories: priorities, protocols, and processes. And this is going to be the rubric that we have seen in attending V.S.A conferences in October at Lake Maury. And what I'm going to do right now, because DQS is going to take us to that area called board evaluation, self-evaluation. And it's going to be a series of prompts saying, to what extent are we actually doing a good job in these areas? So just very briefly this evening, in terms of just getting grounded in DQS, I'm going to give out the self-evaluation standards, and I'm going to, actually, these three are going to go over to that side of the room, if you don't mind. And I'm going to ask that we fill it out right now without discussion, and that after board members fill it out, I'd like to collect it. And I would appreciate if you would put your, do you have one?
I do.
Okay, good. I'd appreciate if you would put your name on it. And then I'm going to collect it. And I'm going to put it in an envelope, and believe me, I'm not going to look at it. And let's say in a couple months' time, as we go through more in-depth consideration of our work, I will give this out to you again, the one that you're filling out right now, and let's see where we stand after discussion about some of these issues. So that's the exercise I'd like to do right now. Tim, do you have a question?
Yeah, how much time do we have? Because I would like to give this some good thought.
Oh, I would like this done in like 3 minutes.
I can't do that.
Okay,
Could we take 10?
you could take 5. Let's just take 5 minutes and do it in 5 minutes. Just do it, just your gut feeling. This is not a test.
It's off 10 seconds.
And the first one should read, obviously, the board follows an inclusive process.
Just send it back out.
We don't, we just pass it down and then we'll let people put it in the envelope late. Oh, God. Okay, do I do a George Costanza's and lick it and hope that I survive? Remember that episode? It's a real classic. And
Now you need to put do not open and.
well, I was gonna say, a couple of us should sign it. And that way, you know, I'm so not interested in reading these. It will come back to us individually. Okay, great. Thank you. That's DQS. That's what the work that we need to do. Those are the talking points that we need to have in terms of DQS. DQS also involves the facility, and those are going to be issues that have to do very specifically with administration, business operations, facilities management, facilities safety, and then the governance part is our bailiwick as board members. So part of what I remember hearing over the weekend was that if we are going in the direction of vouchers, DQS only applies to public schools. It does not apply to private schools, and nor can we mandate it. So it'll be interesting to see how all of this plays out. I'm going to move down the line. The final 3 points under board business: discussion of board goals, plans for the admin board retreat, which I believe is on June 24th, just those two. We are, I think, ready to begin the process of considering what the agenda is going to look like and what continuous improvement plan is going to look like, having to do with the admin board retreat. And that first planning session is this Thursday, April 24, 1:30 to 3:30. So I'm opening this up for board consideration. I think as it looks right now, Kim is on that committee, I'm on it, and is other board members.
Or what committee?
This is planning the agenda and the continuous improvement plan for
Board admin retreat.
The board admin retreat. Thank you very much. The board admin retreat. Okay, so I see hands up. Ruby,
Yeah.
Okay, got it. This is,
And we'll be discussing in this meeting when it will be meeting, or will we work amongst ourselves? Whoever's raises their hand.
We have an initial meeting on Thursday.
we're gonna,
Thursday, okay.
we have to, there's more than
Okay.
just board members in this
Okay.
committee.
Yeah.
So, Ruby.
Yeah.
And, Tim,
What time on Thursday?
it is at 1:30 in the central office.
Okay.
1:30 in the central office, April 24, that's a Thursday.
Enough clarity.
Okay, let me just make sure I've got this right. Thursday, April 24, 1:30 to 3:30 in the central office. Jessica.
So this meeting / committee is to plan the board retreat and the CIP goals as well. Is that?
Yes,
Okay.
for academic year 25-26. That's right. Continuous improvement plan, presentation topics to be covered during the school year, as well as, those are all issues having to do with the June meeting. Right.
So it's really to plan a super effective full day retreat, collaborative retreat of the board and the admin. So that when we leave that retreat, we have these key takeaways in terms of CIP, everybody on board with that. Presentation topics tied to the CIP and hopefully and likely some team building activities.
So it will be the three boards coming together, Vernon, school district, our school district, the supervisory union, administrators. It's a packed house when this takes place. Right.
That many people, you really want a tight, clear agenda, or else we will not get where we want to go.
Okay. We need to open this up and talk about board goals. So I have a feeling maybe we want to talk about board goals to get into the nuts and bolts at our next meeting.
I don't know how to respond to that.
That was funny.
It was my phone. I must have hit something, but I don't know what I hit. And okay. I realize, Liz, you had your hand up. I'm going to come right back to you. There are a couple of board members with hands up. Matt?
Yeah, I think I'd like to reference a quote from a colleague of mine. Everything is a priority, nothing is a priority. We have limited resources in this district, on this board. I am not of the mind, personally, that the board goals should vary vastly from the district's CIP goals.
Yeah.
Now is the time for us to make sure we're aligned on that. Perhaps we have one or two extra, but again, if everything's a priority, nothing is a priority.
Got it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, we should open this up for discussion. Yeah, at this point. Ruby.
I guess I'm just a little bit confused about the process and fearful that having this as an agenda item will have us just spinning our wheels for a long time, because I do feel like, we went through multiple retreats where we're trying to get ourselves in a position where we could articulate some board specific goals, and we were not able to do that. And so I don't really want to rehash those our inabilities again. And I feel like all of that EQS and DQS stuff that we just went through, all of the stuff that's happening at the federal level and the state level, there's so much making the ground not solid underneath our feet. I think that, I actually think it's important for the board to have goals and be clear about its purpose. And I don't think we have been. I'm not convinced we're going to do that between now and, at least at a minimum when we next set our goals. But I do think that it would really behoove us as a board, perhaps a few board members, to maybe consult with the V.S.A to try to find comparable sized districts in Vermont to say, hey, maybe we sit in on a board meeting, or maybe we talk to their board members about what's their board goal setting process. How do they see, their board goals as different from their district goals? How do they talk to each other, in terms of development? It feels like that's a good next step before we start. Like, that work needs to happen before we start doing the work here, because I really am afraid that it will just evolve into not being able to do anything, and we all get frustrated with how much time we spend our wheels. That's my concern.
Yeah.
I do agree with Ruby. And I mean, I know I would be willing to meet again with Jessica and Tim, yourself and myself, and talk, try to look at what we want to do as board goals, and then we can bring them back to the entire board. And I think that's what we need to do.
Okay, Jessica.
My understanding after our task force met was that we were going to, like you said, Ruby, take a look at existing boards and how their goals are planned and laid out, and also that our board goals would be established after the CIP goals, so that our goals as a board feed into the goals of the district, and we are really here as a support to the district reaching those goals in our role as the governance. And so that was kind of the process I saw in my mind. I do think perhaps as a task force, we may need to meet briefly again to figure out like who's going to look where, and kind of just get those action steps clear as far as what happens next there. But I do think this would be a good process to kind of work through after the retreat in June.
Somehow I do see our goals being tied to CIP. They just don't separate out. And I really wonder, so can we leave it with this particular group, Kim and Tim, Ruby and Jessica, to take this back for another discussion about action steps? And it may be that we wait until after June 24th. Not that you wait until after June 24th, but that we wait until after June 24th for the board to finalize its goals. Tim.
So what would be the plan for the board to be involved in setting the CIP goals, which need to be established before the retreat?
That's the meeting on Thursday.
That's with the process that started on Thursday.
That's the meeting on Thursday.
Okay, so it's not just process, but it's actually content.
I don't know how I'm making a distinction. Process.
Yeah.
The process is the meeting. The content is there. And the content is to begin to plan for the admin board retreat and everything that means.
Okay. I just see that planning a retreat, what activities, what ice-breaking things is one thing, but establishing just district-wide goals is something much bigger. And
I don't see the distinction in a meeting planning a retreat. For me, planning a retreat, the icebreakers are, let's get that out of the way quickly. That's not what we're there for. We're there to get beyond the icebreaker and get to the hard work, which needs to start before the actual retreat. I think, yes, go for it. Yes.
So Thursday, would it be like discussing, should we again have a 10% goal of increasing literacy by 10%? Would it be that kind of discussion?
I don't know.
Actually, we've started building some agenda opportunities to get to that place, but the first thing we would want to do is evaluate kind of where we are in terms of reaching our current goals. And that's really, we've tried to have that be the focus of the two summits in the fall, in the winter, and again, coming up in the spring. But I don't potentially see like a drastically different CIP. I see a CIP with some really broad goals. So we'll start that process in committee, or not committee, and yeah, I guess committee on Thursday. But again, we have to take into consideration all the presentations that have already been given, the outcomes of the summit, and then potentially kind of predict where we think we're going to land in June in terms of building new goals. That's what we did. That's what we did last year.
Yeah, and I agree that we need to base these decisions on data.
That's yes, without a doubt.
Okay. All right. So we leave it to you to begin to work through some of these issues. Reach out to other boards. Okay.
Liz, did Liz have a?
Oh, thank you very much, Liz Adams. So sorry.
Actually, this goes back to the average class sizes, which is something the RSCA is really working hard to not have those particular numbers in there. I don't even know if our schools meet those numbers. So I mean, you've already moved on, but I just wanted to point out that may well change, hopefully to lower numbers.
Yeah, I did see that information, and that we're treading into dangerous water when we make a determination about how many should be in a given class. That's, I don't know, that makes me feel very uncomfortable. And an average across all of the grades of, let's say, 20 in the class, well, someone might have 25 in their class, and that's not okay. So it's the language is murky, and regarding class size.
They might have, yeah, they might have to change those numbers.
Yes,
I guess
right.
is my point.
Yeah, I thank you very much for reminding us about that. All right, and the last thing that's on here having to do with board matters, this is very much a board meeting and board issues, has to do with the Panorama Survey that went around to everyone. And I'm wondering if board members had a chance to look at that, and any questions, concerns. And this might actually be a component of even our discussion on Thursday, or at some point. Just what do we want from Panorama? What kind of data is it giving us? And yes, Matt.
Hear from administration, initial reactions, thoughts about the student survey, sort of what speaks to administration from that survey.
Right now.
Whatever you're ready.
No rush. Mark, you're not on the spot. You don't have to do it right now. No, this is day 2 of coming back from a break. But yes.
It's certainly tied to our goal of around increasing sense of belonging. So I think it's tied to all the work that we're going to be doing leading up to the spring summit, which we would absolutely be presenting on that specific topic, that element of the CIP.
And it's very cool to see what some of the comments are. coming from kids, how they write about their environment, right, and what's important to them. Okay. Tim?
Well, yeah, we have a SAC meeting on the 24th. I would like to hear the SAC members' responses to these open-ended items. There are certainly some themes, facilities and cleanliness. Adult presence and trust, rules and discipline. It's useful data, I think. I don't know what we can do with it, except clean the bathrooms.
I want to say to that we have had, when we had our NEASC visit last year, one of the things that the entire committee talked about was how incredibly clean our school is. And we are very proud of that. And we comment constantly to our team that cleans the building that they do an impeccable job.
And it looks clean when we go there.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
Okay. Ruby?
Something that I found myself wanting in terms of information, I appreciated seeing kind of on the slide deck, on the first page, there were kind of bullet points that told us how many responses there were in different groups. But I found myself being curious and not wanting to like dig up the budget information to see like what percentage responded, so there were 626 6th to 12th graders, and how many does that represent? And I think that'd be an easy data point to put in there just in terms of future presentations. I think that's a helpful thing. I kind of appreciate that. I think these open-ended questions are the ones that we generate that don't have anything to do with any other, like they're not we can't find comparables, right? Okay. And correct me if I'm wrong, that we can't, like, we change them periodically. So we don't like to, but there has been change. So it's not as if we can look back and see how that's shifted.
Some of the questions are historical, and we can track growth over time. A bunch of them were new this year that a committee of the board and admin developed in the fall. So it's the first year that they've been asked.
Okay. Bryn, hi.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I'm joining from home a little sick. I just wanted to respond to your question, Matt, of, overall interpretations of pulling together survey data. And I just wanted to remind the board that the actual overall results analysis was shared in the wintertime, and it's linked from your agenda. So all of those question by question analysis responses, as well as the overall response rate, are in those documents as well. Ruby, it was about 84% was the overall response rate of our students. It was a pretty good representation of our students. About the open-ended response, which is the slides I think folks were just looking at that were AI generated, it was a required question that kids had to answer what could be done to improve the safety of the school. And one thing that really struck me trying to analyze some of the data was how many students wrote nothing, or I don't know, or a very long story about something that happened at recess that day with some identifiable information in it. So it was a process to go through it all. And I just wanted to point out to everyone that I think there's some really valuable data in the AI analysis of that. And thank you for that suggestion, Matt. And important to take it with a grain of salt. That is just of students who had something that they typed into that box. The majority of both third through fifth and also 6th through 12th graders really said, I feel very safe at school. So that was one thing that really struck me going through the results. And also just to refer you back on your agenda to all of the detailed quantitative responses from that survey. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Bryn. Thanks. Tim.
Yeah, I would like to point out, Hannah, correct me if I'm wrong, the response rate for high school rose again about 66%.
I don't have that information in front of me. I'm guessing Bryn probably
Last
does.
2 years, we were about 66, 67%.
Yeah, and we
Well-
do it in I'm trying to remember how we did it this year. It was either during ACE or class time, but it's during a time. It's not like an email that goes out, please do this. It's everyone's doing it at the same time.
It's not terrible, but it, might be better.
Open to suggestions.
Other comment? Okay. All right. So we are up to the administrative report.
Okay. We'll start with some resignations. Allison Paquette, Oak Grove School, first grade teacher. Catherine Radoon, Guilford, grade 5 teacher. Kristen Dolores, Guilford, grade 2 teacher. Those 3, sorry. Yeah, the other one was done at the last meeting.
Okay, is there a motion to support the resignations as mentioned by the superintendent?
So moved with regret.
Second.
Okay, discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Okay, 2 new hires. So Kristen Dolores will be starting up at Academy School as an academic support teacher, and Skylar Mead at Green Street School as a grade 5 teacher.
Okay. Motion in support of the 2 new hires.
So moved.
Thank you.
Seconded.
Second, any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Welcome.
Okay, thank you. So in terms of an update on the return from spring break, it's been 2 days. But the focus really from this point in the year, towards the end of the year, is how do we finish the year as strong as we can. So we're really looking at a healthy and productive hiring season. We're looking at continuing to evaluate curriculum implementation, a look towards the spring data benchmark window, and again, bringing all of this information to really assess how we met our goals as we get closer to June this school year. So we'll do some of that on Thursday with the small group. But that's really the work from now till the end of the year, is keeping, the pedal on the gas, creating clarity and consistency for our kids up through June, not only behaviorally and social emotional, but academic, and really get a sense of where we are with curriculum implementation right now and where we need to be in June, and make sure we're doing some really pointed planning around getting there in June. So as I think you all know, we have a monthly full admin meeting, full day, every month. That's kind of a summary of the day we planned for this Friday. And there's also biweekly check-ins with the elementary leadership team and then the this campus leadership team. So that's how we're navigating the end of the year, and holding each other accountable for as best we can to meet our goals that we set in the beginning of the year. So it's a busy time of year, but an exciting time of year, and certainly a time of year of celebration as well, and reflection. So that's the broad update from spring break. And then I would like to introduce Carrie Beebe to you, who was our pre-K coordinator.
I'm here just to present a new UPK partner, a private partner, a Wild Strawberry Forest School that is located in Brattleboro, Vermont, and went through the process, is already a 5-star program, and then went through the additional process to become a UPK pre-qualified program, which is through the Vermont Department of Education. So it's really just sort of signing off on the ones that you did, same thing from the beginning of the school year. So I don't know if anyone has any questions, but it's sort of business as usual.
So is there a motion to accept Wild Strawberry Forest School as a partner in the Universal Pre-K program?
So moved.
Second. All right, thank you. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. Welcome. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. Approval of minutes for April 8, 2025. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, I was hoping someone was going to second that. Any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? And any unfinished business? Matt?
Wanted to give a brief update on the staff appreciation task that I had taken on. And so I was able to get in contact with the Putney Co-op and the Brattleboro Co-op to ensure that those vendors would be able to support our efforts. Thank you, Mark, for giving us an additional day. We're currently targeting Monday, May 12th as the day that we'd like to do that. So I would love if there are board members that are willing to help out with transportation that day of the items. I would deeply appreciate that if you could contact me after by email. Again, the two sites are going to be Putney Co-op and Brattleboro Co-op that we're going to utilize.
What, is it breakfast or lunch?
We'll probably be bringing them out in the morning. So it'll be a morning endeavor. It'll be, I'm asking both the sites to put together platters of fruit and pastries, either cookies, muffins, whatnot. So very similar to what we did last year. And we'll incorporate, Brian, the letter that you wrote as well.
And I can help with transportation.
Excellent.
Just let me know.
So that's taking place Monday, the 12th. Our next board meeting is Tuesday, the 13th. Would you like volunteers right now to know that you have volunteers?
That would be fantastic. People are so invited. That'd be great.
Let's do that. And Ruby?
Yeah, I'm happy to help.
Okay, Ruby?
And Brian did say that he would help as well.
Oh. You're volunteering, Brian?
Well, no, he said it. You just didn't hear. But yes, I am.
Sorry. Oh, okay. All right. I'm just writing this down. Anybody else?
It's not me, I swear.
Okay. Monday, May 12th. I'm going to put myself down, but I need to confirm that. Okay, anybody, and I'll do Brattleboro Co-op, right? Yeah. Anybody else? And we've got Matt. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that good?
Many hands make light work.
Okay. All right. If others want to volunteer, that would be great. All right. Okay. And any new business? All right. We are moving on. We are coming to the end of the evening. We have an executive session. Is there a motion to find that premature general knowledge would clearly place the public body or a person involved at a substantial disadvantage?
So moved.
Okay, discussion. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, is there a motion to enter into executive session 1 V.S.A. 313A7, the academic records or suspension or discipline of students? Okay, we've got motion of it's approved, seconded. It wasn't approved yet. Sorry. It was seconded. Yes. Discussion. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please indicate by saying no. Any abstentions? All right, we are rising and we are going into executive.
Will there
session.
be any, is anyone invited in?
Oh, yes, there will be numerous people invited in.
And is there action? Will there
Well,
expected
wait, one thing at a time. Yes, Mark Spino is invited in, Carrie Beebe is invited in, and Stacy Sawyer invited in, and potential action. Potential action. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Is there a motion to accept the recommendation of administration with regard to a student matter?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. I would like to thank Stacy and Carrie for being here so late. I know. Thank you very much for your patience. So if there is no further business, is there any other business before this board?
Madam Chair, there being no further business before this board, I move that we adjourn.
Jessica's ready for that one.
Is there discussion? With okay, now I'm totally.
All those in favor?
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. We are adjourned at
9:04.
9:04.